Drone TV, playing Greyball, and the advertising pinch, plus this day in history with the vast wasteland speech and our song of the day by Charlie Bliss on Your Morning Monarchy for May 9th, 2017. I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com. Welcome to wherever you are in the world for media brought to you by you. We've been online since September 11th, 2005, and we've got 11,000 plus articles, interviews, episodes at MediaMonarchy.com, and you've never heard an ad, and you've never heard a pitch. We are independent, non-commercial media brought to you by you, and a huge thanks to all our latest patrons and supporters via MediaMonarchy.com/support. We got the PayPal, the Patreon, the Bitcoin, the snail mail, and I know I have one new patron, but I didn't add it to my notes, so I'm going to look real quick. Yes, Adam S. Huge thanks to Adam S. He is our latest patron at patreon.com/MediaMonarchy. As I say, if you can give a little, I can give a lot. A huge thanks to the Truth Seeker app and the growing community at RadioConfluence.com for not hating the media and getting into the ring and becoming the media. Hope you're doing well whenever, wherever you are, a minute after 9 a.m., It is May 9th, streaming live from the Media Monarchy studios up here in Portland, Oregon. And as I noted for you yesterday, we did a little studio rearrangement. And I think when I was probably able to maybe hide a little better yesterday, at some point, it was pretty much Sunday evening, my throat started hurting a lot. And I think it's probably a combination of, I went out Thursday night and saw Goodfellas, went out Friday night to the dinner theater, then Saturday we went to the big plant sale, and Saturday, Sunday, I rearranged my studio, and I think I really kicked up a lot of dust bunnies. That, with the weather change, you can probably tell I sound maybe a little more nasally. But not to worry, in addition to my cup of decaf coffee, I've also got a little Breathe Easy sitting next to me, so hopefully I'll feel a little better, and I'm pretty much just, it's like my body is just kind of pushing it all out without being too graphic. You know what I mean. And I've never really been an allergy person. I've never had those problems at all. I wonder, after being a decade plus in Oregon with the weather change, I wonder if it's now starting to affect me as we're all starting to get a little bit older, my friends. So as I talked about yesterday, the rearrangement of the studio has a little bit to do with what's going to happen on May 17th. And on May 17th, Mixlr is going to drop the paywall. And what that means is essentially the software we've been using to live broadcast Media Monarchy, your morning show, your music show, since January 2016, they're basically charging you to go on air at all. Now, again, I don't fault them, and I don't have huge hate for Mixlr, like I do for some of the companies we're going to talk about on this Tech Tuesday edition of Your Morning Monarchy. We call it #CyberSpaceWar. They're just doing what they got to do. But they're going to start charging to broadcast at all. And rather than start to pay them, I'm just going to do what I've always wanted to do, and that's start my own stream myself. And guess what? We already have. It's already running. Some of you are already trying it out. So if you go to MediaMonarchy.com/listen, you'll see the link to our new stream. As of now, I know you can open it in iTunes. I know you can open it in VLC Player. What we're working on, hopefully behind the scenes, is basically a little embeddable player, because I don't want anything to change for any of you. When the show starts, you can go to MediaMonarchy.com/listen. There it is. Nothing to install, nothing to change, nothing to switch around. The other thing we're looking at is how to do a chat. And as I discussed yesterday, I think my idea is probably going to be that the chat is for subscribers only. I don't like the idea of putting the show behind any kind of paywall. I don't think we will ever do anything like that. But we might make the chat for subscribers only. And again, I noted yesterday we're looking at things maybe like Discord to do something like that. If you know something better, and if you're a tech genius, Apollo, Ray, you guys, I'd love your help on trying to get Media Monarchy, again, completely independent. I'd rather be streaming from my home, off my own server, off my own machines. That's really all I've ever wanted, is for Media Monarchy to be a 24/7 radio station. So on that point, actually, after yesterday's 2 live broadcasts, and again, you get 2 live hours each and every day, Monday through Friday, your hour-long morning Monarchy at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and your daily DJ set at noon, I call Pump Up the Volume. That's at noon Pacific time. After yesterday's Pump Up the Volume, we just kept the stream going, kept some electro music playing, and we mixed that with the Sally Yates hearings over in Congress with Clapper. So that's more the kind of things that we are going to continue to do. So hopefully check out that stream. And again, I see a few of you already checking it out right now, and a huge thanks if we can continue to smoke test that, as they call it. It is Tech Tuesday. We call it #CyberSpaceWar. And just as we are crowd-funded, we are also crowdsourced. So much of the news is brought to you by you. #CyberSpaceWar is the name of the game today, but let's glance, as always, as always, at the breaking lamestream news. Comey misstated key Clinton email evidence at hearing. 10 important questions raised by Sally Yates' testimony on the compromised Michael Flynn, who, of course, was originally brought into the White House by Obama. I don't see anybody really mentioning that. And as predicted for you yesterday, Trump advisors call for more troops to break Afghan deadlock. We told you that about 24 hours ago, and they're talking maybe 5,000 more troops. As many as 5,000 more troops to Afghanistan. South Koreans elect liberal Moon Jae-in president after months of turmoil, also that we've covered for you here on these shows, going on in South Korea. We've described it as some sort of bizarro world play out of America's next top president. We're always just seemingly a few minutes away from complete societal breakdown and chaos. Spirit Airlines cancellations at Fort Lauderdale Airport cause chaos. Of course, you can see there's no shortage of idiots on smartphone footage. And back here in Portland, Macy's Portland Downtown Holiday Parade is no more. They pulled their sponsorship of the big downtown parade that's been a part of the Portland holiday season for the last 20 years. The other Portland story I was looking at this morning, Snoop Dogg's uncle blames racism for fire that closed his Portland rib shack. His rib shack caught on fire yesterday morning about 3:30 a.m., and he immediately makes videos saying, it's racist that did it. Now, I'm pretty sure investigators have already said, it looks like the fire started near the massive grill in the back. But, you know, it's 2017, so everything's racist. And, I mean, here, look at me. Look at my microaggressions right here. I am James Evan Pilato. You are listening to The Morning Monarchy. My nose is a little stuffed up, and whenever we play some clips, that's probably when I'll be chugging my tea here in the background. So I hope you're doing well, and we are live on the air May 9th, 2017. Did someone leave U.S. surveillance drone feeds live on the public internet? If it isn't a live feed, then what is it? A simulation? A pre-recorded loop? The U.S. government apparently recently streamed, possibly live, on the public internet footage from at least one military-style drone flying over Florida's panhandle, and you know what we call that. The drone appeared to be flying thousands of feet over the coast, aiming its high-tech camera at random civilian boaters as what could have been part of some kind of test, or maybe a demonstration by a military contractor, which are essentially the same thing, I would say. The footage is still up on the obscure website and is reportedly a recording. It could by now be months old. Yes, this is weird, as Motherboard reports. Especially considering that one of the agencies that apparently sponsored the feed is the National Reconnaissance Office. That's right, we just talked about them last week, the NRO. Remember running simulated terror drills of planes crashing into buildings? You know, right around September 11th. The National Reconnaissance Office, NRO, and of course they're launching all the secret satellites, which oversees America's fleet of top-secret spy satellites. Journalist Kenneth Lipp noticed the possible former live stream while doing some fairly broad online research on May Day. I ended up watching jet skiers via U.S. government aerial video feed, Lipp wrote on his blog. A similar page appears to display a separate feed from a separate drone. FMV is military parlance for full motion video, the kind that unmanned aerial vehicles such as the Predator and Reaper shoot in Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, and all the other wars that have been continued by Obama. And now, of course, Trump train. The agenda does not change. The faces do. And, of course, people's fair weather involvement changes. Sometimes the FMV is basically shot right before firing a missile or dropping a bomb on some suspected terrorist. The U.S. Defense Department possesses thousands of drones and routinely tests them at bases all over the U.S. Perhaps not coincidentally, Eglin Air Force Base, a major Air Force test site, is situated a short distance from where Lipp's drone is or was apparently flying. The webpage with the video includes the logos of 3 government organizations. One is the Chantilly, Virginia-based NRO. Another is NRO's Aerospace Data Facility East, an installation at Fort Belvoir in Virginia that's best known for controlling spy satellites. And finally, there's the Washington Innovation Center of the Combat Information Center. That's too many centers in one title, whatever that is. NRO spokeswoman Loretta DeCio told Motherboard she wasn't immediately familiar with the video. She said she'd look into it, but of course failed to respond by the Motherboard deadline. Scott Swanson, former Air Force Predator operator who helped kill lots of little kids. Oh, wait, it doesn't say that. Who helped lead the team that added missiles to the drone starting in 2000, confirmed that the video feed seems legit. The graphics overlay looks like an updated Predator-type feed, but could be any of the modern electro-optical or infrared systems. What's weird is that the drone and its controllers appear to have been working for the National Reconnaissance Office, which rarely allows free access to its activities that don't typically include drone tests. Seems strange for me that this would appear on an NRO feed, Swanson commented. It eventually became apparent to Lip and others that the video on the NRO-sponsored site was not live. Lip noted that the video seemed to show clear skies at a time when the weather over America's Wang was in fact cloudy. This doesn't appear to be a live feed, Lip tweeted on May 4th. Also, the video showed bright blue skies even when it was nighttime in Florida. Journalist Sean Gallagher did some poking around and concluded that the drone video was shot in February, and then a Pentagon supplier uploaded it to the website as part of a product demonstration. For his part, Gallagher seems to believe that the contractor that built the site hoped no one outside of the NRO would notice it. Security through obscurity, Gallagher tweeted. Regardless of when the stream was recorded or how old it is, the NRO might have erred in allowing the public to view it. As for the feed being put on the internet, even by accident, that makes me go, Swanson says. All your drones belong to military. They're going to start flying outside your windows soon. And I've joked before, only slightly, that it's going to get to the point where we all basically have to have our own guardian drones just to guard against all the other drone attacks. There's no better word for it. You're listening to the Tech Tuesday edition of your Morning Monarchy. I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com, trying to keep my breath, fighting some colds, but I'm glad you're here. The British government seeking new powers to remove encryption and force phone networks and internet service providers to give real-time access to a named individual's content within 1 working day. The headline, New powers could allow British cyber spooks to spy on you in real time without encryption. Secondary data relating to any suspect would also have to be handed over. The draft paper, which was leaked to Digital Freedom Campaigners Open Rights Group, could be made law and included as part of the much-criticized Investigatory Powers Act. Investigatory Powers Act. The Snoopers Charter, we called it. The public has a right to know about government powers that could put their privacy and security at risk, said the group's executive director, Jim Killock, on the decision to publish details of the white paper. Currently, intelligence services can only surveil 1 in every 10,000 users of a given service at a time. Oh, damn. Simultaneous surveillance could occur in bulk, but be limited to 1 in every 10,000 users of a given service, roughly 900 of telecom giant BT's 9 million British broadband customers, for example. Experts think the plans could be dangerous and would potentially give hackers backdoor access to users' information, which we would argue is probably a part of the plan. Many would not be aware that their details had been shared with the authorities, as the Investigatory Powers Act, dubbed the Snoopers Charter by critics, demands that telecom groups carry out their work in secret. It seems very clear that the Home Office intends to use these to remove end-to-end encryption, or more accurately, to require tech companies to remove it, which is pretty much the name of the game. And of course, all the tech companies go, oh, please don't throw us in the briar patch. I do read the regulations as the Home Office wanting to be able to have near real-time access to web chat and other forms of communication. The measures would have to be sanctioned by government officials and a judge appointed by the current Prime Minister, but perhaps for not long, Theresa May. Consultation on the paper is reportedly due to end on May 19th, but the Home Office denied any attempts to expand the Snoopers Charter were taking place. The government has no legal obligation to advise on draft regulations, such as the white paper leaked to Open Rights Group, but the document seems to suggest that the regulations have already been seen by Britain's Technical Advisory Board, TAB. This is where you insert the keeping tabs on you. A British telecom, that's BT, that's a proper name, spokesman also confirmed the company had received a copy of draft regulations to be made under the Investigatory Powers Act 2016 in relation to technical capability notices. They want to spy on you everywhere all the time. And what was the old Onion joke back when they were good? The Facebook operation has been so successful, the CIA is closing all their other surveillance operations. Again, they're not putting a gun to your head and stealing it. Everybody's willingly giving it away. And remember how quickly the Pokemon craze came on and just how quickly it completely disappeared. It's really interesting to think about just from the PSYOP, Black Ops standpoint. Hey, let's see how many people we can get really into something in a heartbeat. And we've got a lot of news about FriendFace coming up a little bit later in this episode. You are listening to The Morning Monarchy for Tech Tuesday, Cyberspace War Day, May 9th, 2017. I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com. Uber, which, yes, we just used over the weekend. Uber is the subject of a United States Department of Justice, so-called Department of Justice. Well, actually, I see in the chat, that's actually what I was going to say. Our buddy Head in the chat says, I still see zombies stumbling around playing Pokemon Go. I've seen one person recently. And we're riding on the light rail, what's called the Max here in Portland. And I see this dude sitting in front of us. I don't think I've told you this story. I see this guy sitting in front of us. He's got, I think, 2 laptops. And then I notice at least 2 cell phones. And, of course, my first thought was like, wow, what's this guy doing? He must be a tech genius. He's got all kinds of stuff going on. And then finally I realized, oh, you're just using multiple devices to still hunt Pokemon Go. What, do you just get on the subway and just ride around all day looking for Pokemon? That's deeply depressing. Meanwhile, Uber is the subject of a United States Department of Justice inquiry over a program that it used to deceive regulators who were trying to shut down its ride-hailing service. The inquiry concerns Uber's use of a software tool called Greyball, one word, Greyball, which the company developed in part to aid entrance into new markets where its service was not permitted. The tool allowed Uber to deploy what was essentially a fake version of its app to evade law enforcement agencies that were cracking down on its service. The old gray lady reported on Greyball in March, raising questions about the legality of the practice. After the report, Uber said it would prohibit employees from using the software to thwart regulators. The federal inquiry was disclosed in a transportation audit conducted by the city of Portland, published last week. That's here, Portland, Oregon. In the audit, Portland officials said they had been notified by the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of California about the existence of the inquiry. The city of Portland said it was cooperating with the inquiry. Reuters reported on Thursday that the inquiry was a criminal investigation. The United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of California, which of course is pretty close to Oregon, generally conducts criminal investigations, and some of the laws that Uber may have broken carry criminal penalties. A federal inquiry often does not result in any charges being filed. Press officers for Uber and the United States Attorney's Office, as well as the city of Portland, declined to comment last Thursday. Uber, as you may have heard, has been grappling with a number of scandals. Apart from Greyball, Uber's come under fire for its, at times, raucous internal culture, sexual harassment claims, and the aggressive no-holds-barred approach to business espoused by Travis Kalanick, Uber's chief executive. Now, what a hated company Uber is. And it does look like they've been involved in some shady shit. But tell me many companies that don't have raucous internal culture, sexual harassment claims, and a no-holds-barred approach to business. Couldn't that describe a lot of our most hated businesses? But we don't really hear about that. It's only generally when they want to burn a company that is, as the overused word says, a disruptor. And you can't stop it. The idea is already out, and we talk about this all the time. I mention Uber, and I mention even Napster, which I know dates me. It's the idea. And guess what? The idea is the toothpaste, and it's out of the tube.
Eric, is this a sting of a sting operation?
Greyballing, they used it for lots of different things, to protect drivers from angry, taxi unions, and then also to sort of hide from transportation agencies that were looking for, Uber drivers in areas where, it was a legal gray area whether Uber should be operating, hence the name Greyballing. And here they're restricting, the regulatory part, hiding from the government.
Is it legal?
Uber's saying that they're investigating it right now. I think, we're seeing sort of some random regulators posing questions about it, but I think, it's going to be a long conversation about the legality of this program.
Okay, let me ask you why, although it's probably fairly obvious, why did Uber develop it in the first place?
Well, Uber would go into these markets where it wasn't really well understood by the local regulators. And so it wasn't explicitly illegal, it wasn't explicitly legal. And then there would be local authorities trying to go after individual Uber drivers to ticket them or impound their vehicles. And Uber didn't want to help, give those regulators the power to find the drivers. So they showed them a fake version of the app and obscure the driver, trying to protect the driver in where Uber believes that they're operating legally and hopes to resolve the issue with, actual legislative bodies in the city.
It's been a tough few weeks for Uber, Travis Kalanick as well. I mean, he seems to be always dealing with something, right? But any signs that the trouble will abate?
I think we're still right in the middle of the firestorm. I mean, Eric Holder's investigating the company's human resources policies under allegations of sexual harassment. We've seen 2 top executives leave in the last couple weeks, and I think their problems are still very much ongoing. The company has said they're looking for a peer for Travis, a chief operating officer, but that still seems a long way away. So no, I think Uber's problems will continue for quite some time.
Yeah, and we have another great story on the Bloomberg today about how at South by Southwest, all the attendees are going to have to do without Uber now, because Austin is, of course, one of the cities that has banned Uber from operating there. Does that continue? Do more cities in the US jump on that bandwagon?
I think we have to see. I mean, Austin's a super interesting test case because, Uber and Lyft left, and so can sort of more regulated companies fill the void. Certainly in New York, we've seen competitors sprout up, but and then all over the world, Uber has some sort of global peer competing in Ola in India or what have you. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I don't think we've seen anything quite like Austin, though, where there was a full-fledged operation and then Uber and Lyft totally pulled out.
Uber will end the practice of showing fake versions of its app to government officials suspected of conducting sting operations on drivers. The program, which is sometimes referred to as Greyball, blocks users who the company believes are in violation of its terms of service agreement. And that was Eric Newcomer. Eric Newcomer on Bloomberg. And that's not the last we're going to talk about Bloomberg on this Cyberspace War episode of Your Morning Monarchy. And a discussion about Uber is going on in the chat. Sounds pretty snaky. Maybe some of the light on Uber is justified. Certainly the local cab companies have been able to keep Uber off the streets. And perhaps as Uber's expenses approach regular cab companies, have to think that the genie won't go back in the bottle and people will just go guerrilla. And that's where the real action starts. When it's not your local cab company and it's not Uber, it's just people giving people rides. That sounds good to me. That sounds very voluntary, doesn't it? Now, all I know here in Portland, Oregon, speaking from experience, sorry, the cab companies suck. And they had it coming. I don't know how many times I ordered a cab and stood the fuck around and it never showed up. I would call both cab companies and basically race them to see which one could actually come get me first. They had terrible service. So when something comes along, you're going to try the new thing. I missed half of Matthew Sweet's 20th anniversary girlfriend concert because of fucking cab companies here in Portland, and you can imagine how much that makes me mad. So from Uber to self-driving cars, as was also just noted in the chat, of course, they're also working on flying cars by 2020. I'm sure. Flying. We'll have flying cars any day now. Hoverboards and all that shit, right? Yeah, exactly. There's an article on technewsworld.com written by a guy named Rob Enderly, the massive unintended consequences of self-driving cars. And he said he attended last week's opening of Intel's big new autonomous driving lab in Silicon Valley, and it was an impressive effort. One of the most interesting parts is that the garage in the lab was built for a past CEO of the firm Intel acquired in order to challenge for technology leadership in the space. The chief clearly didn't want his four-wheeled baby left out in the sun. However, car residual prices are collapsing based on an alert that crossed my desk last week, and it struck me that we haven't considered much the secondary impacts of having self-driving cars and the changes that will result from turning automobiles into four-wheeled elevators. And I would also note what all comes along with that is turning our smartphones into vending machines, which is essentially what they have become. All the ports are gone. You can just push buttons and buy shit. Don't create anything. Don't make your own websites. What did Jello Biafra sing? So don't create, be sedate. So self-driving cars note many industry players are treating self-driving cars much like you would feature such as cruise control, a nice-to-have option that'll make driving much easier and safer. There are a lot of industries that will be impacted by this, though, both positively and negatively, not the least of which, of course, is the car industry itself, which could find the majority of car companies either vastly changed or out of the market entirely. Oh, no. So this article is talking about the unintended consequences of self-driving cars. And perhaps the least obvious change. But with 35,000 deaths attributed to them each year in the U.S., car accidents have been a huge source of organs for those who need them. Self-driving cars will massively reduce those deaths to near zero, and that could result in a huge imbalance between those who need organs and the available supply. This sounds like a Thursday story. It could lead to a sharp price increase for organs, because they're so affordable right now, and likely a huge increase in illegal harvesting, particularly in regions where this is already a problem. Efforts to create a cloned alternative in the U.S. have been hampered by the religious right. That could result in a distinct and massive spike in illegal organ harvesting in the U.S. Now, what about used cars? There have recently been reports that the used car market is beginning to collapse, which is having an adverse impact on car lease and car payment rates because residuals on cars appear to be dropping rapidly. Oh no, insurance rackets might be hurt? Oh no, the new car industry might be hurt? Oh no, the massive reduction in accidents should eliminate much of the need for litigation, both civil and criminal? That change will also impact insurance. What about media consumption? It's going to increase dramatically because folks who currently are driving to work are unable to consume visual media or read books, except they always do. I talked about it yesterday. You look outside and it's like, holy shit, I'm glad I'm not on the road. All I see you guys doing are doing everything but watching the road and driving. What about law enforcement? With the combination of cars with massive numbers of sensors, as we've talked to you before about V2X or V2V, vehicle to vehicle. They had the open comment period. It is done. All of the industry wants it. They want your cars completely tapped into the grid. With the combination of cars with massive numbers of sensors, centralized tracking, and near constant oversight, traffic cops should become redundant. Then there's also automated on-site car repair and paint shops, and all the other unintended consequences of self-driving cars. My organs! Now we reach the part of your show where we got a lot of news about FriendFace. And there was a lot of news coming out of FriendFace in the last week or so. And again, a huge thanks to everybody who submits these stories using hashtag cyberspace like Sean and Ray and the rest. An Austrian court has ruled that Facebook must delete hate speech postings worldwide and that Austrian law can be applied to lawsuits against the social media website. Maria Windhager, a lawyer for an Australian politician, said Monday's ruling is a rebuff to the social media giant's claims that any court action against it can be heard only in California or Ireland, where Facebook's world and European headquarters are located, respectively. Windhager represents Greens politician Eva Glauschnig, who went to court over comments about her posted through a fake profile. The Austria press agency said Monday's decision arose from Facebook's appeal of a lower court ruling ordering it to delete the postings. Facebook did not immediately comment on the decision, and when I looked for news clips about this, there was only one place that talked about it. Sorry, it's the Young Turks.
An Austrian appeals court has ruled that Facebook must delete so-called hate postings, as well as any post that incites violence. Now, the case brought by Austria's Green Party over the insults to its leader has international ramifications, as the court ruled. The postings must be deleted across the platform, not just in Austria. So this is actually a really fascinating ruling, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're saying to Facebook, initially the court ruled, okay, Facebook must take these hate postings down. We are not going to allow trolls. We don't want it. But the ruling didn't specify whether or not Facebook would have to take it down for every country or just block it for Austria. And so they go back to court again, and the court rules, not good enough if it's just Austria. We want it down, period. It should affect every country.
I don't agree on so many different fronts. So, okay, those are your rules in Austria. Those are not our rules in America. So why do we have to listen to your court? Sorry, no. Look, Facebook doesn't want to face the kind of fines that it could face. And let alone Austria. In Germany, the cabinet approved last month fines that could go up to 50 million euros. That's $55 million if they fail to remove such postings quickly enough. Jesus Christ.
So that's Germany, and now they're thinking about making this an EU-wide policy.
Yeah. So if you're Facebook, I mean, that's a gigantic fine. You don't have a choice. You're probably going to follow that. But as a matter of principle, I don't know why we have to follow European law, Austrian law. Okay, first of all, I don't agree with the Austrian law, so I don't need an analogy, but I'll do one on top anyway. Okay, what if Saudi Arabia said, okay, you have offended Islam with whatever the hell you said. Now you must remove that all across the world.
Where did you get this? The alternative media, Jerry. That's where you hear the truth.
You're listening to Media Monarchy with James Evan Pilato.
You are listening to Media Monarchy, the Tech Tuesday edition. We call it Cyberspace War. It's May 9th, 2017. I'm glad you're here. We got a lot of news about FriendFace. Facebook has deleted thousands of UK accounts and overhauled its newsfeed in an attempt to battle, say it with me, fake news, following vocal criticism of the internet giant's role in the phenomenon. The social network has been under pressure to address false news in recent months. I like the different use of different kind of terms. Keeps it interesting. The social network has been under pressure to address false news in recent months, following concerns about its impact on America's next top president. Yeah, did you guys know? I mean, I've heard it from friends and family who didn't spend 8 years paying attention to anything. Did you guys know that the government's corrupt? I heard somebody talk about it. On Monday, Facebook will announce a new drive to tackle fake news in the UK, just a month before Brits go to the polls in another election that's going to change everything, right? It says it's introduced technology to better identify accounts that spread spam or fake news, such as detecting patterns of those that repeatedly post the same things, and deleted tens of thousands in response. It'll also demote suspicious articles on its website and apps that users see them less often in the Facebook newsfeed, the Fakebook newsfeed. The company's been testing technology that identifies if people read an article but do not share it with their friends, suggesting it may be misleading. From Monday, it'll apply the change in the UK and run a series of adverts in newspapers with tips on how to spot false news. The irony is hilarious there. Yeah, we're going to run it in the newspapers. All those corporate-run places where the heads all sneak off to Bilderberg and secret meetings, and they tell you, oh my God, there's weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, those places. Facebook reported a 76% increase in profits last week, with soaring advertising revenue suggesting the fake news scandal had not dented enthusiasm. But politicians have raised the prospect of regulating or fining the company if it fails to deal with the problem. Now, this story from The Telegraph goes on and on and on, and we know all these things. Germany's threatened to fine social media sites up to 50 million euros for spreading fake news, and an inquiry has been launched into the phenomenon by Culture, Media, and Sport Committee before the election was called. People want to see accurate information on Facebook, and so do we. The company's UK policy director, Simon Milner, said, that's why we are doing everything we can to tackle the problem of false news. The company's also announced partnerships with Full Fact and First Draft, nonprofit fact-checking organizations to tackle fake news in the run-up to the election. Gosh, I wonder who's behind those. Where did they get the massive funding to become a huge, important company in a couple of months? Facebook's chief executive, Mark Sugarcube, originally attempted to play down the false news problem, saying that it made up just a fraction of what appeared on the site. But in recent months, it's introduced a series of initiatives, including restricting advertising on fake news websites, giving users tips about spotting fake news, and putting alerts on disputed stories. Fears around fake news peaked around the U.S. election with claims that far-right internet groups had spread lies about Hillary Clinton to influence the vote. This had led to concerns that June's election, as well as votes in France and Germany, could be affected. But they won't be. This is a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing. I mean, what do I see every morning? What did I see? I told you when I was walking home from Goodfellas the other night. Every little house has its little glow while they're watching the Colbert Report. Late night with the Colbert Report. What do I see this morning? Seth Meyers dedicates a whole segment to blah, blah, blah. You guys are still watching fucking comedy shows for your news. And then freak out every 4 or 8 years that you've been somehow lied to or tricked. You are what you eat, dummies. And that's not just for Food World Order Day. So getting down, I think, to the heart of it, and we've talked about this a lot. The Register has an article. That's out of the UK, biting the hand that feeds IT. Facebook is abusive. It's time to divorce it. Every relationship has its rough edges, places where actions scrape, and through constant repetition, rub raw. Those tender spots can heal if left alone and if the parties are willing to listen, but where the irritation continues, this raw spot becomes a wound that never closes, forcing a choice between continuing pain and a painful separation. It all began so promising with Facebook. Back in 2007, it presented itself as the social calendar of America's elite universities. That Ivy League allure made it irresistible to the students at America's second and third tier colleges, so as Facebook lowered its velvet rope, millions, then tens of millions crowded in. It seemed innocuous, almost trivial. What are you doing? What are you seeing? What's your favorite things? Sharing the trivia of life, and it was fun. But only because we were yet to understand that everything we entered was recorded by Facebook, all of it analyzed, all of it compared against everyone else sharing all of their personal trivialities. Too late we realized that everything we shared was more useful to Facebook than it was to our friends. So while we reveled in the joy of finding new friends, Facebook got the deeper satisfaction of building a complete portrait of an individual inside and out. We were told Facebook needed these portraits to monetize our activities, and that seemed fair enough because somebody had to pay for all the hard work of the enormous machinery that helps everyone everywhere share everything important to them, right? Facebook could say this with a straight face because by the end of the first decade of the 21st century, we had turned our back on the great promise of the web. The very first web commercial browsers, such as Netscape, Navigator, made it easy for users to create their own web pages. That should have been enough to create a galaxy of personal and unique sharing sites. Yet Netscape and Microsoft, which of course has their own massive bug going on right now. Yet Netscape and Microsoft, who of course eventually triumphed over the upstart, never provided the server infrastructure to host these pages, a skill far beyond the average web surfer. So the promise of a web built by everyone, for everyone, got lost in the rush to a commercial web favoring browsing and buying over creating and sharing. Thanks, The Register, for putting into better words what I was just saying a few minutes ago. When Facebook came along, offering a free and easy-to-use outlet for a decade's pent-up demand to share, of course we leapt at it, signing on the dotted line without bothering to read the fine print. And the devil is in those details. Earlier this month, news emerged that executives from Facebook's Australian tentacle claimed the social has the ability to create the emotional profile of its users and even to detect and target vulnerable teenagers, which we reported for you last week, using sad girls. Which, of course, suggests we've paid a lot more than anticipated for this free sharing service. We've handed over a bit of our autonomy, sold a corner of our souls. Facebook is emphatically not a free and open platform for sharing. It's more like the online equivalent of a Venus flytrap, luring us in with sweet nectar only to suddenly snap shut, then slowly digesting and monetizing everything nutritional we fed it. Everyone who uses Facebook is being emotionally monitored. That's what Facebook does. Anyone who uses Facebook can be emotionally manipulated. That's the nature of this beast. And while Facebook denies that their extraordinary power malevolently, they have before and will remain a constant temptation for them. We are protected only by their good graces, a condition that should make us all quite uncomfortable. What's to be done then? Too many people have invested too much of themselves in their communities to contemplate departing Facebook. This is Facebook's great trick. It's become sort of a digital narcotic that its most habituated users simply need to survive. Yet if we don't break the habit, if we keep feeding this beast our most intimate feelings and inner thoughts, knowing that these can be weaponized and turned against us at any moment, aren't we willingly signing over all the rest of our souls? We need an alternative, a migration path that makes the exit from Facebook seamless and joyful. Many have tried to do it, but no one's made that experience easy and painless enough to satisfy. People have to be convinced of the need to change before they'll move on. But what if we now know is insufficient to inspire transition away from Facebook? What will it take? Someone I know recently packed all of his earthly belongings into a sedan, then shared the photo. 16 years of marriage had ended, and he had to begin again. Although he felt sad and lonely, things could not go on as they had. And he took this for a new beginning, a time to heal old wounds. We can change, he seemed to be saying. We just have to be willing to try. That's Mark Pesce on the Register. Facebook is abusive. It's time to divorce it. Oh, but they've got more sweet, sweet sugar cube nectar for you. Facebook plans to launch its own TV-like shows in June. Facebook will roll out its first long-form video shows in June, according to a new report in Business Insider, part of a push to build a stable of original video programming on which it can sell more ads. The company will have roughly 24 shows of two types, shorter ones, 5 to 10 minutes in length, and others similar to traditional TV entertainment. Facebook executives have said previously they plan to create an ecosystem of professionally produced video content to augment the user-generated fare that now fills its web properties. The company's also hiring people from Hollywood and Silicon Valley. In doing so, it joins the other tech giants, Amazon and Google's YouTube, in pushing into the business of entertainment amid an explosion of demand for digital video advertising. I would also say it has something to do with the explosion of user-created media. They got to stop that shit. People are making their own shows and making their own music and making their own media, and they can't have that. You know what we think, and we'll tell you at the very end of this episode. Last couple of stories looking at hashtag cyberspace war. Twitter is launching a 24-hour streaming news channel in partnership with Bloomberg in a major expansion of the social media firm's video operations.
Twitter's latest mission to up their game is round-the-clock streaming television, and in order to do so, the social media platform has announced that they've partnered up with Bloomberg. Twitter is joining forces with a global financial news outlet to be able to stream news created solely for Twitter 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Bloomberg Media CEO released a statement saying, "It is going to be focused on the most important news for an intelligent audience around the globe, and it's going to be broader in focus than our existing network." Basically, what this means for us is, through Twitter, we will now get around-the-clock news that is made up of live news reporting from outlets around the world, as well as curated and verified video by the platform's users. Twitter has already experimented with live streaming for specific events like Thursday night NFL games and coverage of the presidential debates last year. However, their new 24/7 news feed will be the first continuous video feed to be hosted on the platform. In the last week, it was reported that Twitter had experienced a decline in revenue for the first time since going public. The company has been struggling to find a way to convert its massive user base into a fast-growing ad business. As of right now, YouTube leads the competition for video ad dollars, and Facebook video is rapidly growing, while Snapchat looks to be the underdog. The most interesting aspect of this new partnership is that Bloomberg isn't going to just rebroadcast their stories for Twitter. The news company will actually be creating original content. Ideally, the new partnership will bring more quality streaming video content to Twitter and will increase the demand from users and advertisers.
That's from Complex Media, which was started by Mark Echo, which he sold out to Hearst last year. Now, I've probably said before, when Twitter was streaming football games, I clicked on it just to see, was like, hey, how's this going to work? Holy crap, it was amazing. No buffering, no hesitations, crystal clear video. I might be able to get down with some of that. But as far as Facebook and Snapchat and all that stuff, I don't give a damn. The last article we just want to mention briefly, coming from the old gray prostitute called the New York Times, candid, comedic, and macabre YouTube stars feel an advertising pinch. They basically begin the story talking to a guy who runs a live sci-fi channel on YouTube. Since advertisers began pulling away from YouTube, his revenue has plunged. And you see people complaining about this. You see people being hit by this. See Mark Dice constantly talking about it and himself. So what do we do about this? Well, maybe we head over to the site that was created by Media Monarchy listeners, Apollo Slater, Ray Vahi, and more. BitChute.com. I think it's a YouTube killer. It is a peer-to-peer video sharing site, and it's pretty awesome. They're going to add monetization for video content creators and podcasts very soon. I know some might not be interested in that because they might not be interested in monetizing any of their things. But other people are, and other people need it. So if it's a monetization system that we build ourselves and we use, it's a lot harder to hate on that, I think. And that's just another example of building our own media, building our own things. I've been doing this for a long time. But generally speaking, I'm more concerned with the content that goes over the airwaves than how I actually plug everything in and make it go over the airwaves. So I couldn't build this stream myself. I needed help. You didn't build that yourself, as the, of course, classic joke goes. But I'm excited. I'm not scared about any of this. I'm super excited. And I'm super excited to continue to build and grow Media Monarchy with your help. And we've been running our own stream this last 46 minutes. You can find the link to our new independent stream at the same place you stream this show live, MediaMonarchy.com/listen. I'll remind you again, Mixler, the platform we've been using, which is pretty fantastic. They do a good service. But they're going to start charging. And I don't really want to pay them a bunch of money to do something that I know I can do myself, essentially for free. It's open source software. Nicecast. I did set it up. Me and Mike. A buddy in Philly. You know him on the tweets at AFixJS. I'm excited about building all this stuff. And I think we can all do it together. We're going to go out with brand new music today from a little band called Charlie Bliss. We've talked about them before and we've played them before. I've even told you I've ordered their 7 inches before and they wrote little special messages and things. And again, that's another thing about independent media. Think Interscope's going to do that for you? Absolutely not. But when you deal with smaller, more independent bands, artists, producers, creators, what have you, there's a lot more personality. It means a lot more. So before that brand new song from Charlie Bliss, we take, of course, the always important stroll down this day in history, my friends. May 9th, I definitely noted, and I didn't add many of them at all. I could have probably just made this day in history, just the huge amount of crashes, fires, explosions, and disasters that have happened on this day throughout history. And again, everything we say and play included in the show notes. You can go look at these days in history and find other things and go, oh, why didn't you mention this or that? I'd love to hear from you. James at MediaMonarchy.com/no. How's email work? James at MediaMonarchy.com. Don't put a slash after it. This day in history, May 9th, 1662, the figure who later became Mr. Punch made his first recorded appearance in England. 1887, Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show opened on this day in London. Then we jump ahead a bit. May 9th, 1950, Robert Schuman presents his proposal on the creation of an organized Europe, which according to him was indispensable to the maintenance of peaceful relations. This proposal, known as the Schuman Declaration, is considered by some people to be the beginning of the creation of what is now the European Union. Oh, you mean it didn't just appear 8 years ago? May 9th, 1958, Vertigo has its world premiere in San Francisco. Some say Hitchcock's greatest film. And on that same day, Alan Freed was indicted for inciting unlawful destruction of property in Boston. May 9th, 1960, the FDA approves the pill. 1969, reporter breaks the news of secret bombings in Cambodia, which I believe we just spoke about the other day. And on this day, May 9th, 1978, Aldo Moro found dead. Oh, I got my things out of order. So we're going to go back in time a moment. It was 1978 where Aldo Moro was found dead. However, let's go back to May 9th, 1961 for our focus look at this day in history. And I swear, I can't remember where I heard it. I was just playing or listening to something that played a sample of this speech. May 9th, 1961, FCC Chairman Newton N. Minow gives his vast wasteland speech.
When television is bad, nothing is worse. I invite each of you to sit down in front of your own television set when your station goes on the air. Keep your eyes glued to that set until the station signs off. I can assure you that what you will observe is a vast wasteland. You will see a procession of game shows, formula comedies about totally unbelievable families, blood and thunder, mayhem, violence, sadism, murder, Western bad men, Western good men, private eyes, gangsters, more violence and cartoons. And endlessly commercials, many screaming, cajoling, and offending. And most of all, boredom. True, you'll see a few things you will enjoy, but they will be very, very few. And if you think I exaggerate, I only ask you to try it.
A vast wasteland. But he's talking about television back in 1961. Surely that's not what it's like today with our new streaming wasteland, right? Past his prologue, my friends. May 9th, 1970, in Washington, D.C., on this date, 75,000 to 100,000 war protesters demonstrate in front of the White House. What do they do today? Beg for more war and taxes. May 9th, 1974, the United States House Committee on the Judiciary opens formal and public impeachment hearings against President Richard Milhouse Nixon. May 9th, 1979, Iranian Jewish businessman Habib El-Ghanem is executed by firing squad in Tehran, prompting the mass exodus of the once 100,000-strong Jewish community of Iran. May 9th, 1980, in Norco, California, 5 masked gunmen hold up a Security Pacific Bank, leading to a violent shootout and one of the largest pursuits in California history. 2 of the gunmen and 1 police officer are killed, and 33 police and civilian vehicles are destroyed in the chase. Damn it! How many police vehicles did you destroy? You're a loose cannon! Sorry. Let's be an action movie. May 9th, 1998. Oh, it's a dark day. Puff Daddy and Jimmy Page are on Saturday Night Live to perform Come With Me. You know, the Godzilla song? Whew, good stuff there. May 9th, 2001, in Ghana, 129 football fans die in what became known as the Arca Sports Stadium disaster. The deaths are caused by a stampede, caused by the firing of tear gas by police personnel at the stadium that followed a controversial decision by the referee. And we look at those and go, God, those people in those countries are crazy. They're all killing each other because of a sports game. But then just look back at our airports here. We're a hair away from that. May 9th, 2002, the 38-day standoff in the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem comes to an end when the Palestinians inside agree to have 13 suspected terrorists among them deported to several different countries. And I see it in the news today, and it happened again in 2015 as well, May 9th. 2015, Russia stages its biggest ever military parade in Moscow's Red Square to commemorate the 70th anniversary of Victory Day. I glance over at the chat. I had that SNL appearance on the TV when my dad was in the room, and he refused to believe it was Jimmy Page. That's probably a pretty rational reaction to that. No way. Published to MediaMonarchy.com a decade ago today, Paul and Gravel build better debates. That's right, Mike Gravel, Ron Paul in the America's Next Top President debates back in 2007. And we did just talk about it last week, and here it is, 10 years ago today, May 9th, 2007, Media Monarchy is blocked in China. We were using the great firewall of China.org to check, and back then we were blocked. Now, when we checked it last Tuesday, looks like we're free and easy. And it's the same reason we're not on those fake news lists. And I'm all right with that. I'm okay to fly under the radar and not be on giant lists of fake news. The third one posted to Media Monarchy a decade ago today. Poll shows 39% of Americans support impeachment. The poll published shows that close to 40% of America favors the impeachment of President George W. Bush and Vice President Dick Cheney, according to an article at Town Hall. Past is prologue, my friends. Celebrating birthdays today on May 9th. John Brown, that's right. Harper's Ferry Raid. That goes back to big, important West Virginia history. It's also Peter Pan creator J.M. Barrie's birthday today. And also Hank Snow, country legend. Sophie Scholl was born on this day. Albert Finney. And the former Attorney General, who you might recall, put a drape over the naked statue of Justice. Because he didn't want to see those evil, evil titties. John Ashcroft, born on this day in 1942. You might also remember him getting warnings to not fly commercially in the months leading up to 9/11. It's Billy Joel's birthday. It's West Virginia boy John Corbett's birthday. You know him as Chris in the Morning. It's also Depeche Mode's Dave Gahan's birthday, Ghostface Killer, Rosario Dawson, and Let's Get a Party Started, Andrew WK. I'm going to do my best to put together a Techno Tuesday edition of your daily DJ set at noon, which starts about 2 hours after we are off the air here, my friends. 2 live hours each and every day. Your morning monarchy, which you're soaking in right now, and pump up the volume. We're going to keep our new personal stream rolling. You might hear a little editing. You might hear a little behind-the-scenes chatter. That, I think, is what's going to make it that much more fun. I'm so excited about building Media Monarchy. You guys, it's as if you didn't know. And we're going to build it together with your support, MediaMonarchy.com/support, but also your engagement and involvement. Doesn't happen by just throwing fiats at me, zeros and ones. That keeps us going and growing. But it's the interaction and involvement that makes it really happen, my friends. So we're going out with brand new music from the indie band Charlie Bliss. Their new record, Guppy, is out on the awesome independent Pacific Northwest label called Barsook. And the song from Charlie Bliss is Glitter, my friends. And that wraps up the Cyberspace War edition of your Morning Monarchy. I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com, thanking you from the bottom of my heart for listening. And reminding you, as always, my friends, like Jello Biafra said, don't hate the media, become the media. Take care.
You're listening to Media Monarchy with James Evan Pilato. Since 2005, Media Monarchy has covered the real news about politics, health, technology and the occult. all remixed with music and media that matters. Go to MediaMonarchy.com/support and become a monthly subscriber so you can help keep independent, non-commercial, alternative media going and growing. Thanks.